welcome to Vistage Live. So we don't normally talk about the weather on this podcast, but today we are filming in Sydney on a freezing cold June day. So wherever you are and whenever you're watching this, if you're thinking of Sydney, you might be thinking of sunshine and beaches. Not today. My guest and I are sitting here slowly warming up from the toes up. My guest is Vanessa Cullen, a pioneering strategist and design expert with over 20 years of experience leading impact-driven innovation across the commercial and not-for-profit sectors. As the founder and CEO of Forward Thinking Design, Vanessa leads a certified social enterprise that helps boards and executive teams align their spaces, strategy, and ESG impact through sustainable and inclusive design. Vanessa holds board and advisory roles across health, design, and animal welfare, and is a graduate of the AICD. With her values-led, cross-disciplinary approach, Vanessa offers fresh insight into how leaders can create lasting, purpose-driven impact. Vanessa, welcome to Vistage Live.
Thank you so much.
What a really interesting bio. And there's some things in here that people may not understand.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So why don't we start with, tell us about a social enterprise.
Yes, right. I think a lot of people don't understand the difference between a not-for-profit and a social enterprise.
Yeah.
I think that's probably the biggest thing.
Possibly including me.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Well, I guess if you think about a not-for-profit being a charity, then essentially they get donations and then they perform their charitable purpose. With a social enterprise, it's a business that has to operate for profit, but within the constitution is built in a social commitment, I guess you might call it. So that could be a percentage of revenue that needs to be essentially donated or through pro bono services, or it could be that the social enterprise provides employment for underserved communities. So it depends on the purpose, but essentially it is a for-profit business, but it has a commitment built into that constitution around social impact.
Okay, that's really interesting. So am I right then from what you're saying that a social enterprise doesn't necessarily mean that the purpose of the business or the work they're doing relates to social impact? It might just be that a percentage of the profits.
Not usually.
Really.
Not usually.
Right.
Yeah. So usually there is a social.
Yeah.
Usually there's a social purpose built into the business itself. But I guess this is also where there's nuance between a B corporation and a social enterprise too.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Because a B corporation doesn't. We were a B corporation,
Yes.
so I can speak to this. A B corporation doesn't have to be specifically focused around social impact.
That's right.
Yeah, so they could be a business in anything, and then they do have a social impact commitment, but also environmental impact commitment, all those sorts of things.
Yeah.
With a social enterprise, though, you'll generally find that they are focused on doing something that would be like for good, so to speak, in a similar way to a charity. But the nuance is that it's not a donation-based model.
Yes.
So that's basically, I mean, I know it's very blurry, but that's the difference.
No, I don't think it is. Well, once you're inside
Yes.
a social enterprise versus a not-for-profit,
Yes.
it's a very different.
Oh, very much so. Yes. Yeah.
So can you give me some examples
Yeah.
of social enterprises in Australia
Yeah, sure.
or worldwide, but some examples?
Yeah, absolutely. So if I think about, there's a company in Australia called Superyard. So with Superyard, what they do is they take products that are excess building materials that otherwise might go to landfill. They put them into literally a yard and then they on-sell those products to save them from landfill.
Right.
And so basically their social purpose is around environmental impact.
Yes.
It's also equity in terms of accessing those resources too.
Yeah.
Another one that I can think of is a company called Just Gold. And their purpose is to provide employment for people who are neurodiverse.
Yes.
And they provide marketing, video, all of these sorts of services around brand promotion, basically. So you can see two very different models there, but they're both social enterprises.
And then lining up their circular economy.
Yes.
That?
Okay. So my business for the last 2 decades has exercised a circular approach to everything we've done. but the world didn't call it that. We called it common sense, waste not, want not. Essentially what's happened is that since 2019 or thereabouts, the world started to talk about this thing called circular economy. And I realized, well, actually, this is something that we can teach other people, and we can provide them with the tools and the ability to do this thing called circular economy, because it has been built into our DNA.
And what's the thing?
What is the thing? Yeah. So basically, the traditional economy is linear. So it means you extract and then you use, you consume, and then you waste. So that's the linear economy. Yep. With a circular economy, what you do is you want to return everything back into circulation, constantly reusing those resources in the way that elevates them to their highest value. So what I mean by that is that when you recycle, you downgrade the value of a resource, right? Both because you're losing, I guess, the fact that you can't reuse the thing as it is. But also because you have to put energy, water, all those different things
into destroying it or recycling it or whatever it does.
Exactly. So in a circular economy, you want to strive to go well above recycling and really prioritize reuse, and also just the minimization of the use of virgin resources in the first place.
Right.
Yeah. So it's a complicated one as well.
It's really interesting though, because it's things that many people are doing anyway.
Absolutely.
Donating clothes, good clothing to Dress for Success or to Red Cross or something like that.
Yeah.
That's an example.
That's right. Absolutely. Yes.
Right. Just give me a couple more examples, then we'll get into you and your story.
Yeah, well, to speak to that idea of donating clothes, I guess when you think about a circular economy, it's important to go even beyond that.
Yeah.
So if you're really taking a circular approach to buying clothes, what you would do is, first of all, you would buy products that are durable, repairable, that really last.
Yes.
And it's only when you've used those up as far as you possibly can that then you would be donating them, because you want to maximize that use at the start.
Right.
If you don't do that, chances are you're going to buy 10 different tops, right? So you've consumed a lot more.
Yes.
Whereas if you've bought something that is durable, lasting, then you'll buy one top.
Yes.
And then when you're done with it, you might donate it, or it might go to
someone else. Right.
Yeah,
okay.
that's right. Yeah.
Right. Interesting. And this, of course, is not a personal example.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Really great. And great to have that glossary of terms, I think.
Yeah.
As we dive into you and your story.
Absolutely.
So tell us your founder's story.
Yeah. It really came from ethics more than anything.
Yeah.
So I actually started my business whilst I was at university, first of all.
And what were you studying?
I was studying the Bachelor of Design at UNSW. So I was majoring in environments and graphic design at the time. I thought I wanted to be a brand designer. Turned out I didn't. But that's what I thought at the time.
I thought I wanted to be a speech pathologist. Turned out I didn't. So,
No, you just speak as well. Yeah. It's funny, isn't it, how we change our trajectories. But so at the time, I was studying that, and someone, I don't know who, but someone had instilled into me this idea that you need to start to work as soon as you can and get real work experience.
Yeah.
So even from my first year, I was studying full-time, but also working on the side, even doing volunteer stuff just to get experience. And there was a job board at university, and they had small projects that came up there, like design a logo for someone or this or that or whatever. So I just started doing that, and I had to get an ABN. So here I was. I'm like, I don't even know about this, but got the ABN, started a miniature business, I suppose you'd say. And then just built that work up as I went out into employment, so full-time employment after graduating. But then when I got out in the industry, what I found was that there was a lot of disrespect of people's intellectual property. There was also a lot of young graduates working crazy hours.
And were you working for an agency or for yourself when you left uni?
So when I speak about the industry, I mean working for others at that time. Yeah. I still had these little projects going on the side. So I was sort of building up a bit of a portfolio of my own business. But when I got out into the industry, I met some beautiful people as my colleagues, but I was really dismayed with the way people were being paid so little to work so hard, so many hours. It really would be what we'd call modern slavery now. Honestly, it was quite ridiculous in some cases. And this disrespect of intellectual property, I think they were the biggest two things that kind of really upset me. I went and did some agency work too, tried out different organizations, again, found the same thing. And that just led me to say, look, as soon as I can possibly go full-time in my own business, I'd rather do that and run the type of business that I want to work in that aligns with my values.
Can I just go back there?
Yeah,
Something's just come up. Do you think there's something about that business model? Is it inherently bosses are unethical?
No,
I don't think so either.
I don't think so. Yeah.
What's driving that? How come that situation's occurring in a country like ours?
Yep.
What's driving that culturally?
Yeah, definitely I can answer that. So I think there's a real undervaluing of people in creative services to begin with. So I think design is hugely undervalued.
Yes.
This is something that I'm pushing for because I'm on the honour committee for the Design Institute of Australia. It's one of the things I'm pushing for is recognition of designers as professionals who should be on boards even and, aspiring to the same level as other professionals. So I think that's where...
So that's the arts generally, isn't it?
It is,
because any artist would say the same thing.
They would. Yeah, definitely. We're also a female-dominated industry.
Yeah, right, okay.
And I think that there's a lot in that too, that I think young women will work very, very hard to just get their foot in the door because they start from a compromised position. And that leaves you open to being taken advantage of, I think. So, no, I'm not going to say all bosses are bad because I am one.
Yeah.
But I think what it is that having such a female-dominated industry in an area that isn't sufficiently respected, I think all these things compound. And that's what causes the problems within the industry.
Yeah, I understand. Thank you. Thanks for that diversion. So you went out on your own?
Yes, I did. Yes. Yeah. So built up enough work to be able to hire my first person. So she was actually a lady who was about 2 decades older than me with a lot of experience around running a business, running an office. And I've always believed in hire better than myself.
Yeah, totally.
So that was a great first move. She taught me to systemize the business from the very beginning, which was amazing. And we just basically followed this route of what aligns with the values and the ethics, which we actually wrote down. So where the commitment was made right from the beginning around these are the clients we'll work with and these are the clients we won't. This is the sort of work we'll do. This is the sort of work that we'll decline. So, yeah.
And as your business built, it was focused on the work environment, is that right? Or the built environment?
Built environment, yeah, that's right. So we went into fit out design and then that led on to looking at business strategy because strategy drives design.
There's an alignment, isn't there?
That's right, exactly. And then my clients started to pull me into all different directions. So they would say, look, when you were working with us on our hotel kitchen, you were talking about ergonomics. We have some problems with some conflict between the staff in the kitchen. Tell me about your experiences with staff conflict. And I'm like, what is happening here?
Put the knives over there.
Yeah. That's all right.
Yeah, right. Really interesting. So how did you expand your credibility, your knowledge to be able to round out what your offering was? That's the agility, isn't it?
It is, yeah. So word of mouth was probably our biggest driver from the beginning. The work that we produced was quality and people knew they could rely upon us. So I guess that gets you that trust in the first place, that respect, that you know what you're talking about. Also, having been in business for, 10, 15, now 20 years, people just respect you as a business owner. And so that's kind of what led me in those other directions as well around looking at, strategic planning and all of that. Because I'd sit down with a board or a general manager or senior management and just speak the same language.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you understand.
That's right.
What they're...
Yeah.
And I know, and we can get to it a bit later, but you were part of a peer advisory group.
Yes.
At that time.
That
was tech.
Yes. Tech was hugely pivotal.
And so you must have been a young member of that group.
I sure was.
Yeah.
I was the youngest member in the group. Yeah. And I think one of only 3 women in the group at the time.
Yeah. And pivotal in which way?
Oh, wow. The other members of the group gave me so much confidence because they treated me like, an equal and an adult in the room. And I think that was the biggest gift that they gave me was to say, look, you might be the youngest, but hey, you've been in business for a while and you've got all this get up and go. And I think too, they appreciated that a new voice in the room can bring new insights, which was amazing. Like having that openness, it's such a credit to all of them that they were able to think in that way. I also had an amazing chair who I still love. So shout out to Ron Geeky. I guess Ron had come from his background with Amber Tiles and Oz Design, and he knew my industry, which also...
So that really helped, didn't it?
Yeah, it really did. Yeah, certainly. So we were able to just, again, speak the same language, and I just looked at him as this father I didn't have. You know, he was just amazing.
Yeah, well, that's great. What a lovely story. So how did your business shift and grow then into what it is now, a social enterprise? What was the shift?
Well, if you look back at why I started the business from that ethical point of view, it actually always was a social enterprise. Because even really early on, we were doing pro bono work for charities right from the very beginning. For me, it just felt like what you do. Like volunteering just seemed to make sense. I'm like, if I've got time, why would I not? And what I've noticed is that charities quite often need the professional services that we provide. And if we charge the full rate for that, that means that we're robbing them of something they could be investing into social housing or something else. So my belief has always been that what we do for our corporate for-profit clients, we take that profit and that part of that revenue, and that's then what we donate in pro bono time to the charities. So that's been our model. It also has helped us to finance advocacy as well. So essentially, we're always a social enterprise, and then there became a framework that was called social enterprise, and that's when we got certified as a social enterprise.
And when was that? It was kind of sort of mid to late last decade.
I'd have to have a think, but I can't remember whether B Corp or Social Traders came first, but I think we got our first certification about 2017.
Yeah, that's what around that time when I first started to hear of that. And B Corp might have been a bit before that. Even.
Yeah, we were part of the first Sydney local B Corp group.
Right.
So this was way back when it seems like B Corp was more smaller organizations plus Patagonia.
That's right. Do you know, it's funny because Vistage in Argentina is a B Corp organization.
There you go. Yeah. Now it's a lot of bigger companies, which I think is great.
Yeah, like Patagonia.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. They were always like the ones out there sort of forging the way.
Right. Yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah. So your business story is interesting.
Yes.
I'm going to ask you a business question, then you're going to get more to you. So have you been able to build a profitable, successful enterprise within this framework?
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I was, really pleased to say that I'd paid off my own home. I cleared the mortgage. To me, profit is, and running a successful business for me is, do I have the work-life balance? Am I doing good? Can I keep a roof over my head? Can my staff flourish? It's all of those things. So I always actually think that's a really interesting question when you talk about success, because someone's idea of success might be 10 houses, a boatyard,
whatever.
But they might be very unhappy.
Yeah.
For me, it's about well-being, health. I've put that before anything else. And just knowing that I'm in a stable position, but more importantly, that I have the wherewithal to be able to be the social enterprise, like to do good. So here we are 22 years later, and we're doing good. So I count that as success, yes.
Give me a summary of the good that you're doing.
Yes, sure.
Well, apart from anything else, you're providing employment for a number of people in a really good organisation.
That's right. Yeah.
What else?
Yeah.
Well, give me a summary of some of the good you're doing.
Yeah, sure. So I sit on a lot of different volunteer boards and do a lot of volunteering myself. And that's all because I can free up essentially half of my week to do those sorts of things. So that means I can do advocacy work as well. So a lot of the advocacy lately has been trying to champion the design profession, but also animal welfare, which you spoke about.
Yes. Yeah, I was going to get to animals.
What's with that one?
Tell me about the animals.
Yeah. So I'm on the board of the Animal Justice Party, which has been a very different experience.
Oh, that's right. At the recent election, you were busy, weren't you?
I was. I'm not a political animal.
Right.
So it's
Did
been
the party get any?
so in the federal election we didn't, but recently we actually got up a WA MP, which is amazing. So we now have a Victorian MP, a New South Wales MP, and a WA MP.
Great.
Yeah,
Great.
yeah. But I guess for us, it's just about.
And we don't normally talk about politics
No.
here. But this was just a little interesting.
Something a little bit different. Yeah. For us, it's about just raising awareness of the plight of those who don't have a voice. So in this case, animals. But if you look at the policies that we took into the last election, there was a lot in there about domestic violence. So we really like to think about ourselves as being for people and planet too. So we had environmental policies and platforms in there, certainly platforms around affordable housing, things like that. So I think we're a bit more than a single issue party these days. Yeah. But for me, it's just about getting people to, I guess, think about the ecosystem that we live in, which is also the circular economy thing too. It's all about how we're part of this bigger picture. And so again, business has freed me up to be able to do that work. And it's actually been fantastic because I've learned so much that I never knew.
Learning is important for you, isn't it?
Oh, yes.
So you are a really interesting person.
Thank you.
And I mean that.
Yes.
A really interesting person. And a lot of people in business don't come across someone with your mixture of your mix of business experience, business success, and intellectual presence, and then the overt drive for an ethical response to our planet, the world, to doing business with people.
Yeah.
Where did this come from in you?
I have to credit it to my heritage. So my family is made up of immigrants.
From
mum's side, Italian immigrants from a small island called Lipari, which is off the toe of Sicily, if you know it.
No, I don't, but sounds fabulous.
Oh, yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. It's a little rock in the ocean with a lot of volcanoes around it.
Yeah.
How would I say this? So my great-grandparents came to Australia and they came with no money, not really skills either because they came from an island. And my grandmother, I think, went to school till she was about 10 years old. So again, no wherewithal. And I was lucky enough to know my great-grandparents for much of my life. They lived until they were in their mid-90s. So I had that exposure to them. And I just watched the way that they lived. They wasted nothing because they came out of the war too. My great-grandfather was actually a prisoner of war in Africa and he was away from his wife and several daughters. She didn't know if he was going to come back. So you just looked at the way they lived. They just made everything themselves. They made the most of everything, wasted literally nothing. And there was just this honesty and this charitable nature. They would literally give you the shirt off their own back. They were always donating to overseas to children starving in Africa. That was their biggest thing. My great-grandmother would cry every time she saw one of these ads on the TV about, donate to World Vision or whatever. And I'm like, you have no money, but she's still putting her money in the envelope and sending it off each week. And literally giving you the $10 as a gift when you're you don't have, you wanted to give the money back. You don't have this money.
Yes.
But charity came before anything else.
Yeah.
And I think that's been handed up through the generations from my great-grandmother and great-grandfather to my grandmother to my mom, who also wastes nothing.
Yeah.
She's very thrifty. And then to me, and I think it's just in my DNA. It's just a cultural thing.
Yeah.
I can't think of any other way of being.
And I think it's just wonderful because then how in your generation compared with your great-grandparents, you've been able to broaden this and demonstrate that this value set can have an impact on society through business as well.
That's right, yeah. And I'm so lucky because I think just having the opportunity to have gone to university, for example. My mother would have loved to have gone to university. It wasn't an option for her. So I think, again, I've tried to take that privilege and then pay it forward as well. Because, I'm blessed. Yeah.
It's a wonderful story and your business is so interesting.
Yeah.
So the design part of it as well, does that still interest you as well?
Yes.
So when you go into a space, are you still kind of inspired by what the design could be?
I still love looking at beautiful spaces that to me, a beautiful space is about how it feels.
Yeah.
So I'm one of those people who, I guess it's kind of that form follows function. But for me, it's all about how does it work and how does it support the human beings. I was talking with my hands.
No, it's good. Me too. I'm holding mine now. Yeah.
So I think for me, though, design has always been not about the application of like finishes to surfaces or anything like that. For me, design is problem solving. So design is about creating human experience, whether that's through brand or space or through services or whatever the case may be. So I feel like every day when I work with other business owners, I'm still designing, or if I'm working with a charity, I'm still designing. But when it comes to the spaces, yes, I love, like I often point out things that I see or spaces like all the cast of light or whatever, because I've just got that. It's still there.
I love that.
Yeah.
So tell me about your home. What are the design elements of your home? Because I'm trying to picture it.
This is really fun.
I've got animals. I'm picturing animals.
There's animals.
Yeah.
There's animals. Yeah, there's rescue cats. So, of course, we would probably have more rescue animals, but the house isn't big enough.
Right.
Yeah. It's funny, though. You know what they say about a builder's home is never finished?
Yeah.
Yeah, mine's the same.
Right.
So our house is just very functional. It's we like cozy spaces.
Yes.
So everything is about how it feels. It's not designed to look like a showroom because I couldn't live in that.
Yeah.
And the like the furnishings are things like I have this beautiful sort of, I don't know that the table was handmade, but it's timber and then it was whitewashed and then sort of buffed back, and it just has this really tactile quality about it. So, and then you look at like the coffee table is made out of pieces of like timber that were just saved and they've been fixed together in a way that it's really rustic.
Yeah.
I like those sorts of things. Like I like that tactile warmth.
Yes.
So the home it's a home of laughter and pets and mayhem and natural warmth.
Which shines through you.
Thank you.
Vanessa, you've shared with our listeners something very different from what we're normally talking about at Vistage Live. However, you've shared something we talk about a lot. You've talked about the founder's story. You've talked about you as a successful business person, as a successful businesswoman.
Yes.
You've talked about finding the right customer for you.
That's right. Yeah.
And you've brought in who you are as a person. And I can see that the impact that has on your organization, your team, and all of your clients.
Yes.
And now for all of our listeners on Vistage Live. Vanessa Cullen, thank you so much for joining us.